Hi, I'm Chelsea Zaccato.
And I'm Natalie Heacock.
And this is Lumber Slingers.
Each podcast, we will be bringing you relevant and useful industry information, including interviews with top lumber professionals and discussion of current events in the industry.
Whether it be lumber grading, industry and market trends, or who's who in lumber, we hope to extend your current tally on industry knowledge.
Hey guys.
Who made that sick beat? That's all I want to know today. It's the only news I need.
Hey, if I get good, I could even do outro.
Hell yeah.
Outro music. What's up, Trent? Chelsea and I have been podcasting like fools lately. Tell us what's happening in the real world.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, the real world is just a crazy world, so it's just, I don't know. I'm trying to be in my own little world, actually, to stay away from the real world. Across the board. Oh my gosh, things are crazy in the real world. In my real world, we're getting ready to go on spring break for the kids next week, which is going to be super easy peasy for us, So it's going to be an interesting week, and so I mean, the real world is kind of crazy right now for me. So I like it's one of those things where I enjoy being at work every day because it kind of gives me a little bit of break from the chaos of everything else, and I can kind of
True that.
focus, So I think there's something about that, and if you like doing it, that's a really good thing as well.
Yeah, my kids are on spring break this week, and something I didn't realize that I'm sure all other parents who have older kids do realize is that spring break, like when the kids were younger, I'd be like, okay, I got to find daycare if we're not going anywhere, we're not doing anything. Now, spring break is like actually a treat because there's no sports. You have the entire week off of sports. So it's like it's a break for parents. Like we're not running around all week long. It's very nice.
That's nice. Yeah, Frankie's on spring break until further notice. I'm not sure when she gets off, but it's going to be a while.
Couple years.
It's from dance class. She still has her jujitsu and her swim class. So I mean, we get one day off, which is pretty cool next week, but everything else is still going forward. So and like I wanted to do something fun, but as you know, we just got back from our recent Disney cruise trip and everything. So it's like it's very close to that, and also things are so bonkersly expensive around here during spring break. Like everyone knows it's spring break, and they're like, "We're gonna double everything in price." I'm like, "Okay, never mind. Maybe we'll just hang out here instead."
We did a trip
aggressive.
one time, literally one time over spring break week, and I was like, I'll never do that again. Never again.
Mhm. And it's
Yeah,
busy.
they always know to boost, like, I've done a lot of, like, work travel in March. I'm always like, why was that so expensive? Like, my flights. And it's always because spring break.
And it's the
Spring break's
people.
everywhere.
There's
Yeah.
1,000 million people everywhere. It's just like, but as my kids are getting older, the teachers don't like it when I pull them out of school because we're going to Cancun in like 3 weeks and I'm pulling them all out for a week and the teachers get mad.
See, I talked about that recently, or like we went to our thing, and I mean, obviously she's in kindergarten, but I was thinking about when it's like, even when she gets older, it's like, I don't know, for me, I mean, you could probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like if you're doing stuff like that, and even if, especially if it's in like, it's not like every single month, it's like, there seems to be a lot of value of being able to go and travel and do something like that, because like those are real experiences, and I think those resonate very long in like I remember those things when I'm like older now, and it's like I think there's something to be said for that because you can make up your assignments, but you can't make up like those types of experiences. So I can get how it's
Time with your
frustrating, but
family.
yeah, but I think a lot of it, from what I've even seen, is it comes down to the teachers don't like it because their attendance numbers get all jacked up, and I think that's what frustrates them because they like track it and they send us emails every week like who had the best attendance, and like when we're gone, it's just like our class is plummets then because inherently other kids are gone. So I honestly think a lot of it's that as well. It's like it's kind of all in there mixed together. But yeah, I mean, I would say take them to Cancun every year if you want. Who cares? I mean, they're gonna remember that stuff a lot more than one week of school. They can make that up.
That's true. That's true.
That's true.
Well, Chelsea and I were at the International Mass Timber Conference this week, which is during spring break, which is interesting timing. But apparently they're going to be changing that. Or Oregon's spring break. I think next year they already have the dates and it's not spring break. But actually, I mean, it's so well attended for being during spring break. And Chelsea, where were we when everyone was raising their hands? I think we were out at I can't remember, but it was like a third of the people were from Oregon.
Blakely.
Yeah, Port
Blakely.
Blakely. A third were from Oregon, a third were from the other parts of the United States, and a third were international. So the conference really pulls a lot of people from different places.
Yeah. Yeah, it was,
So, Loki,
I think they pulled, what's that, Trent?
where was the conference at? What city?
It was in Portland, Oregon, just here in
Oh,
our
was it Port?
backyard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes it a little bit easier
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Made it easy on me and Natalie, that's for sure. So, that would have been different if we had to travel this week. So, thank you, International Mass Timber Conference.
It's Chelsea and I were talking about having conferences in our backyard versus traveling, and it's confusing because when you're at a conference elsewhere, that's all you do, right? Like, where are we getting happy hour? Where are we getting dinner? When you're here, you're like, I gotta go home to my family.
Yeah, you're not as submerged into it and you get to sleep in your own bed. It's kind of nice. Best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So,
Sleeping in your own bed is the best part.
oh,
Yeah, for
it
sure.
is. And I used to like it makes the balance pretty nice. Because when they used to have Null in Chicago, like that was my favorite thing because I would, take the train down, I'd be able to
Oh,
stay at home. And also, I think the last time they had, if I remember correctly, I think Quinn was super duper young. So it made it kind of nice to be able to go home and do that. But to your point, it does make it different, like at the nighttime aspect. I mean, where a lot of this stuff happens, like a lot of people, like, especially at like a trader's market, like they go to like the big bar and do stuff like that, and they go out to eat, and it's like, if you're like got to get home and it's like an hour and a half train ride, plus like a 15-20 minute walk, like you're getting, and you got to wake up the next morning, pretty early to get out there, you're much less prone to do a lot of that stuff. So, I mean, it is an interesting balance. I mean, I don't know if I'd like it every single time for like a conference like that, but having it like thrown in there every once in a while was nice. Just because that's kind of a very, I want to say, important one because it's where I see a lot of people that I know. So it's just like, and I don't go to nearly as many as a lot of other people. So it was to your point, confusing. Like I just felt like I had my feet in two different different spaces, and it was hard to kind of find the balance. I think the first time I did that.
yeah, for sure. For sure.
But your
So,
own bed.
Trent,
Your own bed, though. Come on, man. So nice.
what's news
Nothing
this
like it.
week? Trent?
Well, it's been an interesting week in the aspect that there was a bunch of like smaller things, but I mean I think a lot of the news was dominated by another big announcement that came down over the weekend. Actually, well, I guess it's the weekend, depending on what time the news hit and where you're located is depends on where it fell in the weekend because I believe this was actually published out of was it, I think they said the press release came from Australia because it's James Hardie. They had announced that they and AZEK are going to be combining in a very large transaction. It ends up being $8.75 billion. They're
Billion
going
with
to
a
be paying,
B.
yes, billion with a B, billion dollars. So
Billion.
that was one where personally, like, I did not see that coming. No, I've said that before, but this was a big surprise to me. Just because, I mean, it just, I mean, I can see how it makes sense, but I've seen people chatter online about how it's an interesting combination where it's not something that would, like, you're going to see that without it happening beforehand, you're not gonna be like, hey, this seems like a logical thing. But when you start looking more into it, it's like they are complementary in a way that it kind of adds more to their portfolio on James Hardie's side that kind of helps complete them in the areas that they're looking at. And I mean, I think it's very interesting. And like AZEK's headquarters in Chicago, so it's close to home. At least our overall corporate offices and whatnot. So I don't know. I saw that when it came in. It came into me on Sunday. I think it was like morning or afternoon, and I was like, "Holy guacamole!" It's like usually I try not to read a lot of articles like that, if I'm on Sunday and I'm hanging out with my daughter. But that was one I was like, I need to read this one because this is crazy. So
I don't know. I don't know AZEK at all.
they make composite decking and products like that. So it's been
Oh.
kind of a really big push, like across like just I'd say homeowners and stuff like that. I've seen them. Like I actually had a conversation about this literally last night at dance class with another dance dance dad, where we were talking about because they do the timber tech decking and railing. If that sounds familiar at all. So
I was going to say TimberTech I recognize, and I
yep.
recognize their logo. The AZEK logo is very familiar to
So
me.
it's something where like even me, like when I've been looking at, trying to replace things, I mean, it's a very compelling message because, I mean, I love lumber and I love wood, obviously, but the one negative that is what comes is what I'm going to have to do this year, which is staining it. Every so often you have to stain it, do things like that. And it's a lot of work if you have a decent sized deck. And even if you don't, it's a pain. You have to fight between when there's going to be rain and when there's not going to be rain before and after. And then you have to, take the time to do it. So it can take some time, but it looks beautiful and I love it and it looks awesome. But with these products, like on the decking side, just specifically, it's like you do it and then you don't have to worry about it again. And then the technology they have is throughout because they have other different competitors and stuff like that. And like they have these really cool technologies they've come out with over the years where like you can get like a darker colored deck, like I have like a mahogany color, and they have like reflective stuff built in it. I don't remember what the exact technology was called, but to make it so it doesn't absorb the heat as much because you would think that usually the hot. I mean, the heat's going to be absorbing the super, darker colors, but it helps to kind of reflect a lot of it off, so it's supposed to stay cooler. I've never experienced it personally and know how, well that works, but I mean, things like that are kind of cool to hear. And it's kind of like you set it and forget it, so to speak. So, I mean, I think that message when you're looking at consumers, it's one that can resonate because people are busier these days. People like things done quickly. They don't want to have to do all this extra work,
Instant
especially when you're behind.
gratification.
Exactly. And so, I mean, your real choices, like I was talking to a gentleman last night, is you're looking at wood, vinyl, or like a composite product like this. And so he ended up interestingly choosing vinyl, which is my absolute least favorite out of all these personally, because I think it's very flimsy and it can, like, I see, like, every day I drive by, if we have windstorms, I see those fences getting knocked over just because they don't really seem to have the structurability. And so, um, yeah, I really, I think it's a really interesting product going forward across the board, and it's quite an interesting competitor for pure wood for fencing and decking and things of that nature. So yeah, I
So are
mean,
they gonna
have you heard of
stay
these
the
products?
same? Are they gonna stay like keep their names? Are they combining it under one of the names? Does it say?
Honestly recall, but if specifically, but I want to say that they like. And let me confirm this as I'm looking through here real quick, glance at it. But from what I remember, I feel like they said they're going to stay under the name because I mean it's got a pretty good name, and it would be surprising to me if they were going to get rid of the TimberTech brand, if that's what you're asking. But like the name, like AZEK, that's an
Like
interesting
James
question.
Hardie and AZEK, are they gonna be still existing
Separate.
just
I
together?
know they're
Or
combining like their management, so I don't know. I don't believe that they said at this point in time what they're going to do. I mean, so.
maybe one of them will fizzle out, or maybe they'll keep
Well,
them both. I don't know.
AZEK's like publicly traded, so I mean that entity is not going to be traded anymore. They're going to merge that one, and they're going to start trading on the NYSE, the James Hardie, because under their symbol, and they're going to bring it over because right now they're on the Australian exchange, and um, like I said, I don't recall them breaking down that specific aspect right now. So I'm sure, like as this goes on, especially being a publicly traded company, they're going to have a lot more details of it. But uh, I would be very surprised if in the short term they just ripped off the band-aid for everything across the board because it's I mean they have a pretty good name brand across those type of products, and I mean even some consumer level. I mean definitely with TimberTech, but I would imagine people still might know that name AZEK as well. So
They are keeping the Hardy CEO and the Hardy CFO,
yep,
Rachel Wilson,
yep.
who
So I
has
mean,
a 30-year track record of driving stakeholder value.
so
Miss Rachel Wilson.
do you? I know you said you weren't familiar with the brands specifically, but I mean, do you in your lines hear about people and I mean like does has like those type of products like come to be like competitors in the fact I mean obviously they are but I mean like more have you seen the growth in that and about like in like your day-to-day operations or even like year-to-year ones or things kind of stayed pretty steady on like the decking side and things like that or even fencing.
Yeah, I don't think it really affects kind of on a more, I guess, personal level with our business.
Yep.
I think if people actually, it's funny, our real estate friend, Alyssa, she talks about how when she tours homes that have those composite decking, she says they are all usually don't look very good She said she hates them. So she is a stan of real wood because of her real estate experience. So I think people want what they want. If they want real wood, that's good for us. And I think all of that drives demand for real wood. If it looks like wood, and some people are going to use the composite, obviously, and some people want the real deal. So I don't know. I don't think we don't really pay attention much to that side of the market just because we don't sell it, we don't trade in it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'd be way more relevant to me personally if we did, but I know those brands. A lot of the lumber distribution companies in our industry, work and partner with those brands. So yeah, good for them. That's way to go. Way to go,
Expensive.
guys.
There you go.
It's also expensive. Like when I was asking a gentleman last night, like about what the price difference was. It was, I believe he said, like the composite decking was almost twice as much as it would have been for wood when he got the quote. So I mean, right there, it's gonna kind of put it out for a lot of people as well. And I mean, to your point, like I've never experienced like a large like normal deck. Like my dad has one that he had built at his, and to me it's not the same as these brands. It's one that actually is from Florida, and the company like went under, they got bought out again by someone else. But it didn't feel like it's supposed to kind of look woody-ish, so to speak, but it doesn't feel like, at least that one didn't at all. And that was, I can see how that could be helpful in certain situations, like maybe with rain and things like that, because maybe it's easier to roll off. But it just, the lack of like sturdiness and kind of like, I guess you almost saying density, so to speak, where you can kind of feel, like wood, you can kind of feel it's got that, feel to it. It lacked that, and it just felt less, for lack of a better way to say, authentic. And that, does that make sense? Like not even in a derogatory way, but just like it doesn't feel like the same product. So like when I felt it, I was like, and his actually looked pretty nice because it's covered, but it just, it felt like sometimes like I feel like when you go and you see things that are like, if you were going to like a log cabin, it's just got that wood. Like for me, it makes it feel more like homely. Like when you see like exposed wood beam. It's just
Biophilia.
Biophilia.
People feel better when they're, connected to nature, and when you're not connected to nature. When you're
I'm a
connected
what
to
now?
plastic.
I'm a biophiliac.
Yes,
Oh, cool. I think that's good.
it is. It is a good thing.
Okay, good.
You're in the right industry if you are.
All right, good. I mean, I still love even because I'm a giant nerd. Like when Annie will want to get like candles or like like air things, I'm like, I want to get like the wood ones because they always just make it feel more homely. And she's like, that's cool, but we're gonna get some foo flowery ones too. I'm like, okay, we'll split it, but we got to get some manly smells too. Wood smells. Oh goodness gracious.
So what else is going on? I saw there was a CLT story that
Yes, this was
relevant for this
interesting.
week.
Setra Group. So they're in Sweden, which is close to my heart, being half Swedish and half Belgian. There's a site where they are producing CLT and wood components in Dalarna, and this is in Sweden as well. And what they're going to do is they're transitioning from their continuous production to a periodic production of the CLT. So what they said is I quote there, it's aimed at ensuring long-term financial stability, and it will result in the layoff notices being issued to around 60 employees. The CEO of the Setra Group said that rising timber prices, declining demand in the construction sector, and a surplus of CLT and wood components have significantly impacted profitability. The operational shift is a difficult but necessary decision from a business standpoint. So this is exclusive to obviously the market in Sweden. This is not talking about in America or even Canada. At least what they're talking about with the production and the declining demand and whatnot. But I thought it was very interesting because we haven't heard really anything overtly, I don't want to say necessarily negative, so to speak, in the CLT space. It seems like, a lot of the stories you hear are positive, it's growing and stuff. So this was an interesting one because, having them scale back production, it just kind of struck me. I think it struck a lot of other people that were, that were readers of this because it's one of the, highest read stories over the past week. So I think that it was, everyone else kind of took note of it, of like, what does this mean, if anything? It might be just a whole nothing burger and be, like I said, very specific to Europe, or even Sweden specifically. But, I think it's good to always pay attention to these trends, even if they're in other countries, just because then you can be ready to see, why is this happening? Is there anything that we can do to kind of, offset this potentially, back home, so I mean, it's good to learn from others' situations, I think, across the board. I think that's kind of why a lot of this hit home for, a lot of the readers.
It's interesting how they say continuous production to periodic production. Like, I'm curious what that means exactly. Like, were they running 3 shifts full time? What does that mean? I don't know. But
Yeah.
there is, layoffs of 60 people, which is sad.
Yeah, and Europe is a different animal right now, just based off of what we know. It's there's definitely a different sentiment in the market over there, and it's crazy because you're hearing about all this demand for even just being at this conference this week. It's like there's huge demand for CLT, so they're building more CLT plants. Like we're expanding, and there's a huge demand for lumber, and so you read something that says demand is down overall. So it's interesting. I mean, if they have an inventory overage of CLT panels, then they could probably start exporting them to the U.S. I mean, today, maybe not next week, but
Today. Well, there were some other interesting notes a little bit farther down the article where it was saying that while the CLT and wood production will be scaled back, the glulam production at the site will continue unaffected. So that was a little bit of an interesting tidbit. And also, one other nice thing that makes me at least feel, a little bit better about, the layoff aspect, like you just spoke about, Natalie, is that it says the company intends to resume continuous CLT production when the market conditions improve. So it's not like this is permanent. This is more of a, like, I guess, hopefully short-term situation, and they are, from this at least, open to, going back, full bore, so to speak, as the conditions improve. And they also had a note which is interesting, which I mean I do know from knowing some of the things they did in the European market, that said several wood industry companies in Sweden and Europe have invested in CLT at the same time as the recession has created reduced demand from the construction sector. So I mean, I think that we can relate to that in the context of knowing there was a lot of people that started investing at the same time. Now I don't know, maybe you would know better, if like I haven't seen, a reduced demand by a long shot anywhere around here. So I mean, I think that that's different necessarily here, at least at this point, especially because of the recent tragedies that we've had. But it's just, I don't know. You see some similarities, but also I think there's a lot of differences. But still, again, I always find it to be smart just to be kind of pragmatic and look at what other people are doing and what they're not doing and why that's happening, and see if there's anything you can take to kind of insulate yourself from anything as much as you can. Obviously, I mean,
Yep.
these days things can change on a drop of a
Recession,
dime.
yeah, recession is such a dirty word. It's just, it's like, will we ever stop talking about it? I don't know. It's exhausting.
no, we won't.
Well, and it seems like some of it's almost. I mean, there's obviously indicators, but some of it's in like the eye of the beholder, and by that I mean also who wants to kind of push it, because you like since COVID, I've heard recession is coming, or this and that, like I mean, this is obviously post like the initial dip and stuff like that, and like kind of after the PPP loans and stuff like that, and like it was like every quarter people like recession in 2 quarters, it's just like you keep hearing this, and it's just like it just. You almost become numb to it after a while, if that makes sense, because it's just like you hear it so much, the impact of what that means and what the word means. You just like, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's people saying the same thing again, whatever, what I
Yeah.
mean?
Soft landing, soft landing, soft landing.
Yes, exactly. So it's just,
Yeah.
Look at this cool swag I got from Zippo.
So random, Chelsea.
Sorry, I was really bored.
Sorry. Trent and I are just over here talking about recessions and life-altering pandemics, and
I know, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm over it.
well, that go back to one real quick side note. The one thing I'll say is I love when they have shows locally, is that I can get so much of the little
get as
like
much as you
patsy
want.
stuff. Oh, it's awesome. I
It's like,
should bring back like so much. I'm like, all right, here we go. I got pens for years. I got, staplers, rulers, like staplers. I'm yeah.
Natalie got a pretty cool screen cleaner from Zippo, so
I did.
that was nice. Yeah.
One time
Cleaned my
when I was
screen.
at an NHLA, they
Band
had
camp?
a couple. Yeah, one time when I was at NHLA band camp, they were doing this giveaway where they're giving like a remote control helicopter, and I won it, and I was able to bring it back, and I gave it to my nephew. It was awesome. It was super cool. Like it was pretty cool helicopter. So I didn't win like they've had other giveaways for like booze and literally like guns and stuff before. I never won like the super duper cool things, but I was like, hey, it's like I won something finally, and I never win those things, so that made me very happy.
That's good. All right,
And it's
Trent,
no
tell us about
rules.
Kodiak.
So Kodiak, this is kind of I wanted to touch on this one because I thought it was kind of interesting, where it wasn't an acquisition. It was just basically they are opening up a new branch called Ponderosa Building Supply. Which every time I say Ponderosa makes me think of the restaurant. I don't know if you guys had those out where you are. If not, this is gonna not land at all. That Ponderosa's back here. They only have like a couple left. It hits very close to home in my heart. We used to go there when I was younger all the time. But they're opening that up in northern Idaho, in Hosser, Idaho. So just interesting because, we always hear them about kind of acquiring, different chains and things like that, or smaller, big locations. And so, having them kind of expanding on their own was kind of a cool little tidbit I thought just to include real quickly.
You know what? I always think this is so irrelevant, but whenever I see Kodiak with that bear, I think of a Klondike bar.
That's funny. I think of those pancakes. There's like a Kodiak pancake
Oh,
brand.
the protein
Yep.
pancakes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this is so bad. You guys are on such
And
a
the
good
logo
healthy-
works for the protein pancake, building a solid foundation for growth.
Yep. Mine
Not for a
is
Klondike bar. Well,
No,
you might have
well,
some sort
a
of
different
growth.
Kind of solid, yeah. Different kind of solid foundation.
I'm a little bit different, and mine for some reason reminds me of chewing tobacco, like dip. Like I don't know why. I think there used to be something like Kodiak. 'Cause I remember
Copenhagen.
I think there was one that was called Kodiak as well. Because from what I remember when I was in high
You're right.
school, I think there was. I remember, and this is, kids don't trust at home. But I remember I used to dip Kodiak ice when I was in high school, and like I was never really big into it, but into that all the time. But when I was like a young man, I tried doing that for a little while, and I'm pretty sure it was Kodiak ice, and it's that for some reason reminds me of that. So I'm a little bit off on the the pancakes and the other thing. I think I just made that throw up in her mouth. But other than that, I mean,
I literally just Googled it to remind myself, and it is Kodiak, and it is a bear. And then I actually threw up in my mouth a little bit, and I had to swallow it because we're live, and I didn't want anyone to see me puke on video.
I was in middle school, I think, or maybe it was early in high school. So it was one of those things where you're trying to do it to be cool because you weren't supposed to do it. So to be fair, I never swallowed it, which I don't know if that makes it worse or that probably makes it worse.
I didn't. Okay, I chewed one time. It's really embarrassing, and I didn't know that you weren't supposed to swallow, so I puked my brains out.
Yep.
So, my body's still freaking out just now thinking about it.
Nope, that's fair. That's fair. So sorry to bring you down the terrible memory lane.
Anyway, so what's happening in the market, Trent? Give us a quick 60-second market update before we sign off.
All right. With mortgage rates. There we go. Nice transition. Freddie Mac came out. 30-year fixed rate mortgage is 6.65%, so down by 2 basis points from last week. So they've been kind of pretty steady there within a very, very, tight range over the past couple of weeks. Since I think it was like early to mid-March or so, basically, which would be the past couple of weeks, as I said before that. And similarly with the mortgage applications, not a whole lot of movement there. We saw a couple of weeks when there was like ginormous movement up and down. This one, the applications just decreased 2% from the 1 week earlier. So kind of staying there right in line with that, which is interesting. So I think you're starting to kind of see some, parity, because before it was some big drops there and there were some big ups and downs there, like I was saying. So staying in kind of a little tight spiral there, or like a spiral, I should say. And then for the lumber prices, Madison's Lumber Price Index reported that for the week ending March 21st, prices were at $577, which is down 2% or $13 from the previous week. So
Up over.
I'm sorry. It was at 264, down from 577. I apologize.
Yeah, and it's like up from a month ago, but it fluctuated down a little.
Yes.
But wondering, that's from the 21st. So I'm wondering what's going to happen this next week with
Exactly.
everything
I mean,
with
it's when
April
you look at
1st.
the chart, it's you're seeing some positivity though still across the board. To your point, from
Yeah.
a month ago, it's still up $23 or 4%, so it's still in the upswing, all things considered. So you expect there's going to be some level of momentum, of movement, as long as there's the positive momentum, I think that's the clutch thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, great episode.
Yes, it was good to wrap up the week.
Yes, yes. Well, it's great to see everyone again, and so
See ya.
keep it on.
See you next week.
I think we'll have a lot to talk about next week with obviously whatever April Fool's pranks everybody did and tariff if it
Yes.
actually happened, which we think
And
it
we're
will.
talking about the gray hair that I have from, spring break and my daughter, so that's pretty cool. I'm going to get more.
Yeah,
So
there's
fun.
that.
Perfect. All right. See you guys next week.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.